Grant Mastery, Unlocking Funding Success for Public Safety. This course changes every month because the market changes. And so I try to keep it as mostly as up to date as possible, prepare you for things that are coming. If there's any projects you're working on and you'd like some grant advice about that, put that information in the chat as well. I'll be happy to answer that too. I want you to leave here adding value. I want you to leave here having more than you did when you came in. So let's dive in. What we're going to cover today, very simple terms. I'm a very simple guy. We're going to talk about what do you want? Why do you want it? How you can achieve it? And then I'm going to ask you for a call to action. I do not believe leaving an event like this without a call to action serves anybody. So I'm going to give you some things to think about and leave with here that I know will help you with your projects. So let's dive into what do you want? When I talk to public safety agencies, and I've been talking to them about grants for over 16 years, and I've been in the public safety industry on the business side since just after 9/11, literally 2 weeks after 9/11. Public safety agencies, I find, want the following. They want to add more value to their community than ever before. They want consistent funding solutions that are going to serve their community. And they're going to want to solve problems that exist in their community. Businesses want similar. And what they're looking for is to add more value to the public safety market than ever before. They are looking for more sales leads. They are looking for more sales leads specifically for marketing campaigns, and that it could also include trade shows. They want a more accurate sales pipeline to grow their business. And ultimately, they want more sales. And I'm going to show you how grants are going to tie into both your needs as an end user and your needs as a business. So talking more about public safety agencies, this is what they typically experience when it comes to working on grants. The first thing is a need for them. 90 to 98% of their budgets typically go to payroll and gasoline. 90 to 98%. So if I had $1, 90 to 98 cents is going to payroll and gasoline. So I have 2 to 10 cents left over. And I need to solve my equipment, my software, my training, my capital expenditures, and my personal problems. Very tough to do on 2 to 10%. I also noticed that more and more elected officials want to have a say in what public safety agencies want to purchase. So what does that mean? When I've worked with agencies over the years, we'll talk about product. We'll make sure that they're committed to the product that we're working on the grant for. And then I'll ask them if they have all their approvals. And more over the last 15 years, they would tell me, well, we still need to go in front of city council, or we have to go in front of the county board. And I would ask why. And the answer is always the same. Before we can move ahead with a purchase, we have to make sure that the city feels it is in the city's best interest. So you have people now deciding what you need and not need that haven't done your job. So now you have to sell it to them. So you're getting sold on a solution. Now you're selling it to someone else on a solution. I'm going to show you today some funding sources that maybe can circumvent that. Can't say it works all the time. Depends on how your city's structured or your county. But we're going to talk about different ways to maneuver through that process to speed up the purchase. Now, I find public safety businesses, they're experiencing some similar but some different problems. One, it's a long sales process. They're finding nowadays the purchasing process is anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And that's for a project that costs at least 4 figures or more. So it could be a $5,000 project, could be a $7,000 project. That sometimes is taking just as long as a $50,000 or $500,000 or $1 million project. 6 months to 2 years. One of the reasons is elected officials. They want to have a say on what's purchased. They will vote on average 5 to 7 times before a purchase can be made. So what does that look like? They'll vote for pursuing the project. They'll vote for pursuing a grant if a grant's needed. They'll vote on submitting the grant. They'll vote on accepting the grant if it was awarded. They'll vote on taking the money in. They'll vote on when they're going to spend the money. They'll vote on putting it out to bid. They'll vote on the winning bid, and then they'll vote to cut the PO. So on average, it's 5 to 7 times. It could be up to 9 times. The challenge is they don't meet every day. They meet once a month. So when we're talking 5 to 7 times, we're talking 5 to 7 months. As an end user, when you're looking to solve a problem today, you start looking for solutions today. You really don't want to wait a half a year to up to 2 years to solve that problem. You'd like to solve it as soon as possible. The second thing is a need for meaningful and productive conversations in the public safety market. Now, I happen to have just finished my, I think, 6th trade show in the last 2 months, last week, or a little bit over a week ago. And I've been to 911 conferences recently. I've been to fire conferences. I've been to law enforcement conferences. I've been to EMS conferences. I've been to emergency management conferences, all in the last 2 months. And what I've noticed at being at all those shows is a similar trend. And the trend is this. Companies buy booth space, set up their shop, put their solutions in their booth, standing there waiting to have conversations. Some people come in and have great conversations with end users, learn about their needs, explain their solutions, maybe find some opportunities. A majority of people, though, I find walk the floor and don't stop at any booths, or they stop at just a few. But I'll notice they'll literally stop in front of a booth and they'll stare at what's in the booth, and they'll stare for about 15, 20 seconds, and then they'll walk on by. And I always explain to businesses, that's the customer you need to be most concerned about. And their question is, well, why? The reason being is that customer staring at your products for 15 to 20 seconds probably would love to have them, but they're having a conversation in their head of, well, that would be great to have. That could solve that problem. I have no money. I don't have a clue where I'm going to get money. I'm not even going to start talking to them. And they're going to walk on by. I create a formula, and the formula is end users plus needs minus funding equals less conversations. And when there's no money available to purchase, end users aren't going to talk to you. Because why start a conversation about something that they're never going to find money for? And so to me, if you're a business, selling to a market that doesn't know when it will have funding isn't going to help you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you because you're going to have material issues. When do I buy materials to build, solutions? Supply chain issues going on with the economy and inflation. That's creating more of a problem. But mostly, you're selling to a market that doesn't know if they're going to get money. So how do you manage your business? So I'm of the belief that if I'm going to sell you something, I'm going to know where there's money, and I should guide you through the process so you can get the money. And that's what we're going to talk about today, guiding you through the process on how to get those funds. So how do you do it? How do you achieve this? The way you achieve it is through 3 things: psychology, strategies, and a grant writing mindset. So let's dive into psychology. First thing is goal setting. If you're an agency, you need to have goals. You need to have equipment goals, software goals, training goals. And you need to clearly define them and breaking them down into what's called SMART goals. That is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's going to give you a framework for your efforts. I'm going to say this probably a couple times today. You cannot manage what you don't measure. So you have to have measurables in place. So you should have a goals of, okay, what do I want? How do I achieve what I want? How is what I want relevant to solving my issues? When is the time frame that I want to set as a goal to get this done? And I need to measure it all. So you have to get clear on setting these goals, so that way it's going to make it much more realistic that you're going to find that funding. Planning and organization. Developing a well-structured plan and organizing your tasks and resources effectively is going to enhance your productivity and efficiency. So how do you build a well-structured plan? One way is you develop a team of people from different parts of your agency to be on this funding committee or funding team or funding division. And you plan where to find grants, plan how to start relationships with these grantors, and have a list of what you want to accomplish in terms of what you want to get money for. And you start building out this team and this plan. At least 3 people. I always like 3 people as a minimum, because 2 of them are going to think one way and one's going to think another way. And then it opens it up to dialogue. So planning and organization. Time management. Prioritize tasks, manage distractions, and allocate time appropriately to different activities that can help you progress toward your goal. Now, being in public safety, I started in the law enforcement side. I used to sell SWAT gear. And I would talk to SWAT teams about grants, and I would hear the same thing. I don't got time. I'm already spread thin. I'm wearing many hats, and I could completely appreciate that. It doesn't take a lot of time to really build out this funding division and find grants and start applying for them. What it takes typically is consistent every day budget, 15 minutes a day. If you can budget 15 minutes a day to do a little research, read up on a couple grants, start filling out an application, start writing your narrative or justification paper of why you need the money. In a matter of weeks, you're going to have a well-structured organization of finding money consistently. Some people tell me 15. I don't even have 15 minutes, Michael. No way am I going to have 15 minutes. My reply is great. I can get it. I totally understand. Find 3 people and have each one of them do 5 to 10 minutes a day. Everybody's got 5 to 10 minutes. You can find it somewhere. It's not a matter of looking at it like, oh my God, I got to get all this done, and looking at the whole totality of the grant process. Break it down into chunks and manage those chunks with that time. So now I want to talk about grants themselves, because usually this is the highlight. People come to my courses to learn about where there are grants and how to apply for them. And that's part of the puzzle. Your psychology and how you approach it, to me, is even greater than the grants themselves. Because you could have the best grant in the world that would fund exactly of what you want. If you don't have a strategy on how to tap into it, it's never going to happen. But let's talk about these grants. And let's start off with the Edward Byrne Memorial Grant, otherwise known as the Justice Assistance Grant, otherwise known as the JAG grant. It's primarily a provider of federal criminal justice funding to state and local jurisdictions. There's 2 types of JAG. It's the state allocation and the local government allocation. The local government is based on a formula. The state one, the state gets a lump of money from the DOJ. And then the state determines how they're going to spend it. It's used for a variety of purposes. It could be used for hiring and training officers. It could be used for purchasing equipment. It could be used for developing crime prevention programs, all the above. This grant buys a lot of things. So I like to use the analogy of funnels. If you've ever used a funnel to fill up maybe your windshield wiper fluid or oil in your car, the bigger the funnel, the more it's going to catch. So you don't have to be as accurate. Grants, the bigger the funnel, the more things you could buy with it. So it's not as specific, which could be good, but it also can be challenging. And why it's challenging is it's more competition. There's more people that want to tap into that money. However, every year you're going to have JAG money probably. Always pursue that JAG money. Plan on pursuing it long before it comes out, long before it's in your agency's hands. How do you do that? Talk up the project. Constantly talk up the project of what do you need, why you need it, how you're going to implement it, and the value it's going to add to your community. COPS grant, community-oriented policing services. The COPS office offers various grant programs. It's going to do a lot of things like hiring more officers, implementing community policy strategies, purchasing equipment, enhancing technology infrastructure. So it's, again, a relatively comprehensive grant as well. So the first two are very much law enforcement grants. The next one is AFG, the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. If you're a fire department on this call or EMS, this grant's coming out in January. Start preparing now. The 2023 money, the application process opens in January of 2024. Ideally, they're trying to get caught up to where the year the application opens is the year that the funding is, but they're getting closer. So January, it'll probably close middle of February, maybe middle of March. It's usually about a 4 to 8 week window to apply for that grant. Very comprehensive grant. Provides funding to fire departments, EMS, fire prevention, safety, equipment. I've seen software. A lot of times SCBAs and exhaust systems for your firehouses. Those are usually the big ones that I see a majority of AFG going to. But what I like about AFG, very well run, very well organized, a lot of places to get information. They do training classes online. If you want to be successful at AFG, plug into those classes. Also, talk to other agencies that have been successful in the past. If you have not, find out what they did. AFG is a very detailed grant, but it's worth about $400 million. So it's a nice size grant. But it's a grant you should start being prepared for now because it's going to open probably in 2 months. Next, the Homeland Security Grant Program, which should be coming soon as well, provides funding to state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to enhance preparedness capabilities against active terrorism and other hazards. So nowadays, it's either man-made or natural disasters. There's 3 grants that fall under that Homeland Security Grant Program. UASI, Urban Area Security Initiative. It's typically for the top 25 most populated areas in the country. So like Chicagoland area, Los Angeles, San Diego, Philadelphia, New York, DC, Orlando, Houston. You get the picture. It's usually worth about $500 to $600 million. Then you have the State Homeland Security Grant Program. That is for everybody else. That's usually worth anywhere from $400 to $500 million. And then you have Operation Stone Garden, which is for the border states of Canada that border Canada, Mexico, and bodies of water. That one's usually right around $100 million, specifically 90. Those grants are really good grants. They're relatively competitive as well. So you want to start preparing now for those. Best way to prepare for those, look at years past. Look at what they wanted in 2023. Look what they want in 2022. Look what they want in 2021 and model that. It might change a little bit from year to year, but the main framework is typically the same. Then there's also the Emergency Management Performance Grant. That comes out around the same time as the Homeland Security Grant Program. One of the misconceptions about the Emergency Management Performance Grant is that it's only for emergency management agencies. That is not the case. It assists state and local, tribal, and territorial governments enhancing their emergency management capabilities and preparedness. See, all the grants on this page here, what really they do is they connect products to these grants. So FEMA has something called the Authorized Equipment List, or AEL. If you haven't heard of it, one of your homework assignments is to Google FEMA's AEL. and it's going to take you to the page where that's at. That authorized equipment list is over 750 products, and they are connected to specific Homeland Security grants. So you'll find anywhere from 400 to 600, sometimes even more, of those products are going to be connected to one of those 4 grants I mentioned, either UASI, State Homeland, Stone Garden, or the Emergency Management Preparedness Grant. Don't get caught up and say, well, I'm not an emergency management agency, I can't get that grant. It doesn't work like that. It's connected to the product. Now, this is my personal favorite area because these are areas that people aren't thinking about. And I'm a big believer in, if everyone runs to fish at one pond and no one's fishing this other pond but me, I have a better chance to catch fish. So I am a proponent of grants that are not typically tapped into or aren't typically understood. And that's what I have here. So let's talk about ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. ARPA is all about funding for state and local communities, so cities and counties. And ARPA was set up to help out post-COVID. It had $350 billion of money. They based it on a formula. The formula is population plus stability of the home plus poverty rates. It's a very basic explanation of it. But those 3 items created a formula that determined how much money you got. So to give you an example of how much money, Bentonville, Arkansas, I remember reading this a while back. They have over 100,000 people in their community in Bentonville, Arkansas. They got $28 million. It's a lot of money for a 100,000 person community. So as long as you can show how the community is being optimized due to the result of COVID, you can use ARPA money. I've saw and have seen ARPA funds spent for the last 4 years on a variety of stuff. So I've seen, just talking public safety, I've seen ambulances bought with it. I've seen fire trucks bought with it. I've seen police vehicles bought with it. I've seen police equipment bought with it. I've seen firefighting equipment bought from it. And what I mean by equipment, for like body armor, turnout gear, extradition equipment, surveillance equipment, you name it. Very comprehensive grant. So with ARPA, the way it works is this: you are not going to apply for ARPA funding. It's already at your community. It could be found at any of the following areas: county emergency management, county finance, city finance, city emergency management. So it depends on how big or small your community is. If you're a big city and you have a city emergency management agency, there's ARPA money that they're going to know about. If they don't know about it, finance will know about it. If the finance department of that community doesn't know about it, talk to your city council or county board members. And so when you talk to them, what you're going to want to do is explain to them that you are looking for funding for your project. This is your project. This is the problem that makes you want to implement this project. This is how the project's going to solve the problem, and this is your strategy to get this project up and running. This is how much money you're looking for. What has to happen for us to be able to use some of our ARPA money for this project? You'll be told probably this: the money's been allocated already. And they're going to tell you that thinking you're going to go away. Here's what I want you to think about. If they tell you it's allocated, that's great. Allocated and spent are 2 different things. So when they say it's allocated, that means they've set aside money for that project. They always set aside more money than they need for the project in case the project costs more, but more often than not, there's leftover money. I call that money gap money, G-A-P, the money in between the projects. So with the gap money, it could be tens of thousands of dollars, could be $100,000, could be even more. So to give you an example, I was working on a lighting project for an agency in Tennessee. They wanted to get area scene lighting, and they were talking to the county, and the county set aside $1 million because one of the cities needed to buy a new fire truck. Well, the fire truck, they set aside $1 million. It cost $914,000. So there was $86,000 of gap money left over. Their lighting project was right around 10 grand. So there was easily money left over. They would have never known about it or been able to obtain it if they didn't talk to the people that hold the money. So you want to build rapport with them. It's a relationship game with ARPA. Build relationships with the people that hold the money. Follow up with them when they recommend. You know, you don't want to be a pest. You do want to be persistent. So you might have to follow up with them every month, every couple of weeks. Whatever they recommend is what you want to do, but out of sight, out of mind. Get to know them, get them to like you, get them to appreciate your project, have your data about your project and why it's important ready to go. So that way they will be convinced when there's money left over to move it towards your project. ARPA money is great. It's going to be available till the end of 2024. Right now, there's approximately about 175 million or billion with a B dollars left. Next is community foundations. So community foundations I love because they're about solving problems in a specific geographical region. Depending on the size of the population determines how many counties make up the foundation. So I was just looking at a grant yesterday that encompassed 5 counties in Texas. I've looked at other grants or foundations that had funding for 1 county because it was just heavily populated. There are roughly 1,500 or so community foundations nationwide. If you add up all the money they have or assets, it's roughly $50 billion with a B. Community foundations have to give away 5% of their money every year. So if they have 50 billion, we're talking about they have 2.5 billion to give away. That is twice as big as the Homeland Security grant program and 6 times as big as the AFG grant. So it's a great funding source. The way it works is those foundations raise money within that region from individuals and businesses that reside in that community. They take that money and then they reinvest the funds, very much similar to how a private equity firm invests funds, and they grow the funds to a certain level of assets, and then they give away the 5% every year. They will give away money to projects that enhance, improve, and develop the community. Optimizing public safety's capabilities creates a much more stable environment for these communities to thrive. They will fund projects for public safety. You as a public safety agency, though, need to show how the project is going to do that for the community. Everybody on this call has a community foundation that supports their area. If you ever are looking for that foundation, the way you want to do is you want to Google the following: the city you operate out of, the county you operate out of, the state you operate out of, community foundation. So those 5 words. So example, I live in St. Charles, Illinois, which is in Kane County. So I would do St. Charles, Kane County, Illinois, Community Foundation. And one of the first 3 to 5 things that come up in my Google search will be that foundation. That foundation will have a grant page. It'll have a contact page. And you're going to want to start building relationships with that foundation because you might be able to get money from that foundation year after year after year. They might have a grant set up already for you for what you do, or they might believe in your project so much, they might actually go out and raise money for it. Build relationships with that foundation. Manufacturing companies. So examples like ConocoPhillips, General Motors, Georgia Pacific. If you have a manufacturing facility in your community, their corporate office will fund projects for you. Reason being is manufacturing companies are soft targets. They have materials on hand or on site that might be dangerous. They want to make sure you have everything you need to protect them and everything you need to respond if there's an incident on their facility. Secondly, their workers live in your community. There's a strong possibility that the workers that you are protecting and serving work there, live in your area. Customers, their customers, odds are, live in your community. 4, they want goodwill. They want to promote goodwill. They want to build good, strong relationships with the community as well. And then 5, their businesses. They want the write-off. They want to offset their revenue. Great places to build relationships with that you can go back to every year. Public and private charities. Best example is the Gary Sinise Foundation. Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump will fund projects for public safety. I've seen him fund projects in the mid 6 figures. Typically, he averages around 5-figure range. But the Gary Sinise Foundation is a great place to go for public safety projects. Public safety foundations. If you have a foundation, leverage that relationship. They'll go out and raise money at these businesses. If you don't, find people that live in your community that be willing to start one. A 501c3 public safety foundation can do you a lot of good, raising money for projects and filling gaps that the budget can't fill. And then service companies like Firehouse Subs, the sandwich shop, MetLife, State Farm, Target, Walmart. They have grant programs for public safety as well. Same reasons they want to support you are the same reasons those manufacturers do. They want that write-off. They want to promote goodwill. Their workers and their customers live in your backyard. So they want to build those relationships. Very few public safety agencies tap into any of those. These are organizations you can go back to year after year. Here's some other things I like about them. 1, the average turnaround time on a grant from one of these organizations, 90 to 180 days. That's 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months is a lot better than 6 months to 2 years. Secondly, the work to fill out an application and write a justification paper for any of these private grants, 1/10 of the work of filling out a federal grant form. So it's a lot less work. You get the money quicker. And sometimes these organizations will write the check directly to the division of your agency. So if you're representing the training division, they will write a check to the training division of the police department or the fire department. So you get the money quicker. It doesn't have to go through all that bureaucratic red tape. Really look into these. One of your takeaways today, dig into who can support projects in your backyard that do business there. Next, I want to talk about grant writing mindset. So grants are a 2-step process. Fill out an application, write a narrative or a justification paper. These are going to be key things you want to think about as you work on writing your narratives or justification papers. The first is clarity. Clearly define your goals, your objectives, and the purpose of the project. Articulate why it's important and how it's going to address a specific need or problem within the community. A clear and compelling vision can enhance your grant application. Your application is going to be one thing, but the story or the narrative is what's going to compel that grantor to write that check. So you want to make sure that you connect the dots and be clear about it. Persuasive communication. Develop strong written and verbal communication skills to effectively convey your project's merit. Craft a persuasive narrative that's going to highlight the significance of the initiative, the impact, and the benefits it's going to bring the community. So one of the things that I've learned over the years, and I was somebody in school that was not a great writer. I've learned how to write over the years. How have I done it? I've invested in software. Number 1, Grammarly. So if you're someone that, you wouldn't consider yourself a wordsmith, invest in Grammarly. For $75 a year, you can have the pro model of Grammarly, and it will correct your spelling, your grammar, and the voice you use when you write. It'll take you from writing in a passive voice, which doesn't inspire people to do things, to an active voice, which moves the needle and gets people to take action. That's one thing. And now this year, ChatGPT. I'm not saying have ChatGPT write your grant narratives. I'm not saying that at all. What ChatGPT can do is you could punch in all the data and it could give you a framework and a draft that you can custom and make more your own voice and more specific to where you live. Those are two things I recommend leveraging. Also, leverage your local schools. Maybe your local high school or college would be willing to take on writing a grant narrative as a project. You know, maybe they can't fill out your application, but they definitely could write a narrative for your project based on information you provide them. So there's many ways you could skin this writing cat, but you got to be resourceful. And one of the things I want you to leave here with is a mindset of being more resourceful and thinking outside the box on how you can solve these problems. Research and data analysis. Conduct thorough research to support your project proposal. Use relevant data, statistics, evidence to demonstrate the need for your project and the potential effectiveness. An evidence-based approach is going to increase your credibility and enhance your chances of securing funding. So do your homework, have data. What's the problem? How big is this of a problem? I feel the problem is big, but data will support your feelings. So you want to have as much data as you can. Could be call outs, could be geographical data. It could be the number of schools. It could be the terrain, the square miles. It could be soft targets. Data could be a lot of things, but you really want to dig into that data to show how big that problem is. Stakeholder engagement. Engage with stakeholders likely to be impacted by or have an interest in your project. Collaborate with community members, local organizations, government agencies, potential funders to build relationships. Grants are about relationship building. Gain support, gather endorsements, motivate, sway hearts and minds. Demonstrating community involvement is going to support and strengthen your grant application. So you're going to want to collaborate. So maybe you're looking to buy X for your agency, but one of your adjacent agencies would also benefit from having X. Work together. The more reasons that project can be implemented, the greater chance it's going to get funded. Grant writing skills. Develop strong grant writing skills to effectively convey your project's details, goals, and expected outcomes. Understand the specific requirements of the grant application and tailor your proposal accordingly. Clearly articulate your project's budget, implementation plan, evaluation strategies, and sustainability measures. So writing skills, the more you write, the better you get. Leverage that Grammarly, leverage that ChatGPT, put it in front of the eyes of people that are better at writing, may it be English teachers, English professors, leverage relationships. Maybe it's a spouse of someone that you work with that has a good eye for that or a good writing skill. There's always places you can find people that will help look at what you're writing and help develop your skills and see areas to improve it. Emotional intelligence. Understand and navigate the emotions and motivations of individuals involved in the application process. Develop empathy, active listening skills, and the ability to build rapport with reviewers, funders, and decision makers. Emotional intelligence can help you effectively communicate, address concerns, and build relationships during the application. So build rapport, communicate, find out what that grantor needs to see from you or hear from you to write that check, and then implement it. Ask them questions. What's most important? If I read the application and I read the guidance of how to fill out the application, but when I put this in front of you, what are you looking for, grant reviewer? What can I do to make this case sound and compelling? Grant reviewers and grantors want to give away this money. It's not that they don't want to give it away. They want to give it away to sound compelling and viable projects. So what you need to do is find out, what do they need to see? As I like to say in baseball, learn the umpire strike zone. A strike zone is a ball or a strike. or I'm sorry, is a ball thrown over a plate, higher than the knee, lower than the shoulder. That's a strike. But every umpire has their own strike zone. Every grant reviewer has their own checklist of what they're looking for. Have a conversation with them, build rapport, find out what they need to hear. Lastly, resilience and persistence. The application process is challenging. It's competitive. The average success rate is somewhere between 16 and 18%. It is a very challenging market. Maintain a resilient mindset, stay persistent, learn from setbacks or rejections, use feedback from applications to improve future proposals. Adapt and refine your approach as needed to ensure you remain committed to the goals. So what I always tell people is this: you have to have a thick skin. You're going to get told no. You have to be prepared to learn why you were told no and then adjust. And don't let the no's stop you, because you're going to get told no a lot, but the no's are going to lead to yeses because you're going to get better at playing this game. That's why I call it a game. We've all played games as kids. As we play games, we get better at the games. This is the same thing. The more you play this game, the better you get. 5 to 10 minutes a day from a team of 3 gets you 15 to 30 minutes a day. That's 2.5 hours a week getting better at this game. So what I like to do is ask you to act. And then I want to show you something I think that's going to help that we have released that might be of value. And so the first thing is this: I want you to take a moment and say to yourself, I'm going to learn how to play this game better because I'm tired of not having the equipment, software, and training I need to do my job properly and safely. So decide to take action. Secondly, know your outcome. What do you want? Get clear. Get a notepad and write down. These are the things our agency needs. Get with other leaders of your agency and combine your lists and say, these are the things we're looking for. Then know your why. Why do you need them? The drive's in the why. When I talk to agencies, the people that get grants done for their agencies had a bigger why. The bigger the why, the how comes. The bigger the why, action happens. 80% of getting a grant is why you need it and the action behind it. And that's 4. Take massive action. Start a funding division or a funding team. Learn to master the grant funding game. Build out or invest in high quality grant info. You can Google and build out your own spreadsheet of grants. I'm going to show you another thing you could do as well. You want to find grants if you're an agency specific to your city, county, region, or state, possibly specific to equipment, software, and training as well. You can also hire a consultant, a strategist, or a coach who understands the public safety funding process. Then I want you to notice the results you're getting. You can't manage what you don't measure. Have to pay attention to how are you getting closer or how you're getting farther away from your outcome. And then last but not least, change your approach if necessary. Based on your assessment of your progress, you might need to work on new strategies or new beliefs. If you hit a plateau where you're just not getting over that hump to where you want to get to, that's the time to ask for help. So those steps will help you get to where you need to go. Now, if you have any questions at any time, these are the ways you can get a hold of me. My phone number is 630-877-3130. I have trained close to 3,000 individuals and agencies over the years on how to play this grant game. They're all my family. I get phone calls and I get emails, usually weekly, from people looking for tips and advice and grants. Our website's there, dynamic-international.net. My LinkedIn profile, my business profile is there. I post a lot of content on social media on how to better play this grant game. If you're a business in this room, I do a lot of business coaching. And if you're looking for personal development tips and strategies, I do that as well. But those are all the ways you can find our content. No, you're welcome, Richard. My pleasure.